Now, you will remember back to the Olympics when there was a boxer by the name of Imane Khelif, who we were told was apparently a woman competing in the women's boxing, went on to win gold. There were other women competing against Khelif who said, I do not like this. One competitor from memory pulled out 40 seconds into a bout because, of course, there was a cloud over whether Khelif was actually a man or a woman, because the international body that looks after boxing had previously run genetic tests and said that Khelif had male chromosomes, i.e. he was a male. And would you believe it, this has been vindicated. Now remember, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, refused to do any tests of their own and questioned the validity of the tests that had previously been done. Well, this report comes via Piers Morgan. He says a shocking medical report about Khelif, drafted in 2023 between hospitals in France and Algeria, was leaked to a French journalist and confirms the boxer has a disorder of sexual development, which means he has male chromosomes and some male sexual organs, including internal testicles and a quote-unquote micropenis, but no female uterus. So, for all intents and purposes, Khelif is a male and therefore should not be competing in women's boxing. Now, the IOC, and we talked about this extensively at the time, just dismissed this out of hand and said there was no case to answer here. They refused to do any testing of their own. They didn't care whether it could have been a case of transgenderism or intersex or whatever. They just said, this is not a problem. Well, the actual report by a hospital, this is not some hokey stuff, has been leaked to a journalist and shows that Khelif has male chromosomes. The IOC ought to apologise to every other woman who competed in the female boxing. We got it wrong, but we're not going to hear that from them, are we?
Yeah, what are the chances that we'll get any admission that they got it wrong, let alone an apology to the other competitors? But it's worse than an apology for other competitors missing out on potential gold medals.
Yeah.
Other competitors were hit in the face by someone who should never have been allowed to have been in the ring. And as you said, the IOC were aware of this a year before the Paris Olympics. They deliberately turned a blind eye. And I remember IOC spokesman, I forget his name now, but he did a press conference where he said, if only there was a scientific way to differentiate between men and women. And we're very open to listening if someone could come up with a way. And all of this was already
like
known,
a chromosome test.
documented.
Like a chromosome test.
And they allowed it to go on. There should be hell to pay for this.
Absolutely. In fact, there should be hell to pay for all of the DSD candidates who have competed at Olympic levels since the 2000s. Over 10 medals on the Olympic stage have been won by males who were competing as females by virtue of DSD, this disorder of sexual development that they're talking about. So can appear to be females, and like Khelif, was raised as a girl. You can see pictures of them as a small girl dressed in dresses, etc., and so on. But the reality is someone with DSD has all the advantages of a male in terms of testosterone, bone density, all the other things that men have on us women when it comes to strength physically. You'll never get the apology. But so many other women have missed out on their chance for Olympic gold, silver, bronze because of same thing playing out. You'd think by now the IOC would be alive to this. Instead, they seem to celebrate it as, oh, we've had this many DSD candidates win, instead of saying, hey, yeah, that's really unfair to the women who live and breathe to make it to Olympic levels, compete at that level, and lose to someone who calls themselves a woman, but there's a lot of complications going on.
And let's not forget, anyone who pointed out the obvious during the Paris Games was absolutely lambasted and smeared as transphobic and a bigot. Turns out they weren't a bigot at